Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. We are here today to talk about a crazy situation. It has been a very interesting year for Wizards of the Coast. They have had a lot of ups and downs, right? I mean, you look at things like Arena. Arena's doing quite well, aside from maybe a bit of a hiccup right now with the whole OCO standard. They're most likely seeing a diminishing amount of people playing to a degree, but overall, Arena has been a financial success. The new launch of products like Collector's Edition, for example, another great product that is cranking a lot of money into their pockets. People seem to have taken to them quite nicely. And even me, when it comes to I'm not a huge fan of more expensive Magic products, but when it comes to the special showcase artwork and stuff they've put in there, I really like it. So, I mean, that's a win. You've even got me saying products like that are right. And they've had some major setbacks, too. I think one of the most notable is the Mythic Edition fiasco that actually went so poorly that it ended up with a class action lawsuit being filed against Wizards of the Coast, for which they sent out a bunch of foil sheets to people to try and calm the masses down. But the foil sheets came out damaged or as toothbrushes. Yes, that did happen. Wizards of the Coast sent some people toothbrushes instead of the foil sheets they were supposed to get. That was a funny time in Magic. But either way, that's not what we're here to talk about today. We are here to talk about Wizards of the Coast interesting legal predicament. Now, I want to state outright here, I am obviously no legal expert. I'm just some random dude who talks about Magic the Gathering on the internet. So I'm going to lay out everything for you. I can't say for certain that Wizards of the Coast is going to be fined more than $20 million, but it looks like there is a very big possibility that that will be the case. For those of you who've been paying attention to what's going on, you may have seen any number of people have made videos about this subject, myself included, talking about how there was a data issue with Wizards of the Coast. Well, there is a website called TechCrunch that has put out an interesting article that provides more information about basically everything that happened here. And this involves almost 500,000 people and the possibility of insanely large fines for Wizards of the Coast. It may be more than $20 million. I would not want to be the people in charge of Wizards of the Coast right now, or the people in charge of their data management, because they are going to be getting chewed out. This is a massive issue. Even if it doesn't lead to the fine, just the possibility of a fine of this nature is enough to go, okay, look, we've got to change things. What are you doing? So what happened was, there's a company called Fidus Information Security. And what they do is they kind of crawl around on the internet looking for accessible data that shouldn't be accessible. It's like a win-win scenario for them, where they can make the internet a safer place by finding vulnerable data while also getting their name out there. I had never heard of them before this, so it's actually a great way to advertise your company as well as assisting the internet with this kind of stuff happening, because they found out about this and contacted Wizards. What they had found was there was an unsecured Amazon web service storage bucket. So basically what happened was Wizards of the Coast left a database backup file in a public Amazon web service storage bucket. There was no password on the storage bucket, allowing anyone to access the files inside. So they have information ranging all the way back to 2012 up to 2018, like mid 2018, all accessible. About 452,000 people's information was exposed. We're talking about names, email addresses. The passwords were salted and hashed, but the entirety of the data was not encrypted. So salted and hashed means that it would take some work to unlock the passwords, but not that it would be unfeasible or people would be unable to do it. So this company, Fidus, they reached out to Wizards of the Coast and asked for a comment on this. And then they got no response whatsoever. Nothing was done about this until TechCrunch actually reported on it, at which point Wizards pulled the files down. And they notified the GDPR, the people in charge of the GDPR. Essentially, they notified European authorities. Now, Wizards of the Coast has come out and said Like, we don't believe that anybody has done anything malicious with this data. Nobody has accessed it. Now, the information company, Fidus Information Security, said that seemed basically, I'm paraphrasing here because I don't have like the exact wording from the article, but they're essentially saying there's no way to prove what you're saying. There's no way to prove that none of this data was accessed. So it doesn't really seem reasonable to take the position that you're taking. That's overall the impression that I was given from the article in that regard. So it's a scenario where Fidus said, like, okay, like, why do you think that this hasn't been acted on? There's no proof that you have that can show this. People could have accessed this information. They also stated that they thought it was very odd that a company on this size, on this scale, would have this level of issue, right? You're dealing with 500,000 or more people overall. I mean, when you figure in all the users they have on Arena now at this point, they probably have reached at least 500,000, right? This is a database from a decommissioned website that includes MTGO, MTG Arena, and DCI from the information that was provided in the email that Wizards sent out. So clearly, they're not doing a good job of protecting personal information, right? And that is an issue just from a customer standpoint, where we as customers go, look, this really isn't good. Like, I don't want you giving out my name and email address, and especially not a password, honestly. I mean, it's never a good idea to use the same password in multiple places, but some people do it. It also can give you an idea as to how people construct their passwords, because some people will use like different passwords, but have like a way they build their passwords. But either way, that doesn't tie in to this fine scenario. But as I earlier mentioned in this video, Wizards of the Coast went ahead and reported this data breach, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if it really counts technically as a breach, because as far as I understand, a breach would be somebody accessing your information, right? And like breaking, like you've got a secured sort of, here's my security has been breached. Can you really call it a breach when you just straight up leave the information out there where nobody even needs a password to look at it? You just have it there in a publicly available Amazon file folder kind of setup where anybody can just go in and take a look at it. And this information had been available since mid to early September, is what the article was saying. So we have this information being available for a few months, where Wizards of the Coast is just saying, we don't think anybody's messed with it. And it's like, really, guys? Really? So when these sort of breaches or informational lapses, let's call it an informational lapse, because breach just doesn't feel like the right term when they just allowed you to have the information. Either way, when this sort of a scenario happens, what you have to do is you have to report this to the European, like UK government setup, right? Because they have something called the GDPR. Now, this obviously only applies if you do some business in like the UK. If it's a 100% American company that only did business in America, or a Chinese company that only did business in China, this wouldn't apply to them. But Wizards of the Coast clearly does business with the whole European area. You can see when you go into Magic Arena, they have two different currencies that you can use to buy gems and other things. American dollars and euros, right? So they're clearly doing business in Europe. Now, the GDPR has much better protective laws over information than North America does. So there will be no penalty for Wizards of the Coast for this in terms of North American regulatory agencies, governments. Nothing's going to happen to Wizards in that regard. They just have to deal with their customers going, I don't trust you with my information. But if I'm truthful, I really don't think that's going to impact them at all. I don't think anybody's going to turn around and go, okay, I'm not using MTG Arena, I'm not using MTGO. They're just going to go and change their password and quickly forget this ever happened. But the real problem for Wizards of the Coast as a company comes into play with the GDPR, because they have a much stronger data protection setup where like they even have to have your written permission to do certain things with your data over there. There's all kinds of trouble companies can get into that operate in Europe when they violate this. So this sort of just posting this information and having it publicly available with no encryption could easily violate the GDPR. Now, keep in mind again, as I said, no legal training whatsoever. This is a random dude off the street's opinion looking at it from the outside. But this seems like something that could easily be considered a violation of data protection regulations in Europe. And as a result, that would leave Wizards liable for a massive, massive fine. How it works is there's two different numbers they work with. They use 20 million euros, and last I checked, I could be wrong about this. If you know and I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But euros are actually more than dollars. It may only be 10, 20% more, but as far as I understand, euros are more than dollars. I remember seeing people complaining about having to pay essentially more for arena in-game currency using euros, because it's like, look, if I have to pay 100 euros or $100, 100 euros is worth more than 100 American dollars. So I'm getting the same thing for less value for my money kind of deal, right? So as far as I understand, this is more money. Now it's either that 20 million euros or 4% of annual turnover. And annual, it's weird. That term kind of messed me up at first, because when I think of turnover, I'm used to it more in the concept that management would use it in terms of employees, like leaving a business. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we have a 5% turnover, or 5% of our employees leave every year. But no. Annual turnover in reference to this actually means annual income of the entire company. So basically, Wizards of the Coast, if, and this is obviously a big if because I don't know exactly how this works, but if they are hit with the fine, then it's either going to be 20 million euros or 4% of the entire amount of money that Wizards of the Coast has made for the whole year. And that means everything from Dungeons and Dragons, every property they've made, not just Magic the Gathering because it's had to do with Magic the Gathering, everything this company does worldwide. It's not 4% of the income they've made in Europe. It's 4% of all of their income worldwide, and I believe that's before taxes. Now, if that amount turns out to be lower than 20 million euros, they use 20 million euros. They use whichever is the higher amount from the information that I went over. Now, again, I feel the need to reiterate one more time. I have no legal training. I'm just a dude who's taking a look at this from the outside and going, ooh, this looks ugly. I mean, this does not seem like good data protection policies. And they're really, really keen on hammering down on that kind of stuff in the European part of the world. So I do honestly, like, from my standpoint, it seems far more likely that they are going to get hit with the fine than that they're not. And that could cause some interesting inner turmoil in the company. What do you do with that? Does that mean a few people are getting fired? Does that mean people at the top are getting in trouble? $20 million like 20 million euros when you answer to a higher up company like Hasbro. Hasbro was already struggling as a company. They took a big hit on Wall Street recently. Their stock price dropped. Their income has dropped. Magic is one of the golden boy properties for Hasbro right now. So to have one of your golden boy properties, the one that's actually helping to keep your company afloat, solvent, and making money, to have massive fines, like you've got a massive fine possibly coming. You've got lawsuits being filed against you by your own customers. Wizards of the Coast is both succeeding hard and failing hard at the same time. It would be very interesting to be a fly on the wall for some like internal meetings or phone calls. The kind of phone calls where you go, hello, and then go, oh God, oh my God, okay, let me just try and talk to you like this because you're yelling so much. I'm sorry. Either way, very interesting scenario. And if you hadn't heard about this before now, make sure that you update your MTG Arena, MTGO, DCI passwords. Make sure you update all that so that your information is as secure as it can be in the hands of Wizards of the Coast. I want to thank everybody for coming by. A big shout out to all the people who support me over on Patreon or through channel memberships. Thanks very much for that. If you want to have a chuckle, we put out a brand new funny video on my other channel. Go ahead and check that out. And remember, together, we are the sixth color of magic.